And then we're gonna. Yes, sir, Chairman. Um, Commissioner Panerchuk,
Here.
Commissioner Zelinski.
Here.
Hold on for just 1 second.
That's some volume.
It's all the mics.
If you have another computer on, it's gonna give them. It's just
I don't have any of it. Sorry about that. Not sure. It does give it a nice 1950s tone, doesn't it though? So Chairman Zelinski,
I'm still here.
thank you for confirming. Chairman Jacobs.
Here.
Or not chairman, I'm so sorry, Commissioner
Whatever.
Jacobs. Commissioner Moons,
Here.
yay. And also in attendance is our, in lieu of our city council chairman pro tem Rick Knox, we have Mayor Missy Waldman in attendance, as well as Carlos Trejo, Director of Planning and Community Development, and myself, Dawn Doty, Senior Planner. Thank you very much.
all right, fantastic. Item agenda number 2, public comments. Anyone online, Ms. Doty?
No.
Surprise, surprise.
I'm sorry, I did not use my microphone, but no attendees.
It's fine. Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda. Olivet Spotlight Speaker. My pleasure to call to the podium Mr. Greg Yowitz, developer of Olivet Crossing.
Olive Crossing.
Olive Crossing.
Olive Crossing.
I've just added another couple of syllables.
Couple
Between
letters.
friends, what's that?
It's like when wow, it is weird. It does sound like I'm in a tin can.
Tin can, fishbowl.
Maybe that's it. Oh, yeah, maybe that's hypersensitive mics. We'll find out. I'll lean back a little.
Chairman, before beginning, if I can give a quick overview of where we are with the process. Now, everybody has a little volume setting down here, and if you could just, it could be one of these. Not sure. Okay, and it could be any other of these up here, because they were doing some work on the mics.
As long as the red light's off, you should be in good shape.
Yeah.
I turned mine all the way down, I think. Sounds like it's going away. You know what you might also do is adjust the output volume on the speaker, because it sounds really loud, and I'm not talking loud.
As soon as Don gets back, I just got a brief overview over the development and this kind of chronology of activities at the site.
Let's see if that's better. I think that's better.
Yeah, a lot better.
No, now that didn't do anything. That's weird. All right, Carlos, you go.
All right. Don, if you could get the projector back on. Now you're going to share the workstation. Okay, if you go to the. Of course, we have Mr. Yowitz, and if everybody recalls the old 14-acre site there, where the former Amico daycare, and if you look at the very far back, you can see the Office Max facility, and there where we kind of started back in, heading even back to 2016, and this was always part of the 20. And then you need to go back to the share. There you go. So in 2019, we approved our first amendment, and that was the introduction of 2 office structures and a hotel to the original retail development. And there, and shortly after, I think another amendment was approved in the next slide, to add a residential component to the development. That was in July 2021. And since then, if you go to the next slide, we've issued permits for what we call the Clover. That's the 184 apartment unit on the site grounds that is completed. In 2023, we issued the permit plans for Lot 3, which is going to be the roughly 11,000 square foot multi-tenant retail, which includes Paris Baguette and the Brass Tap. And their construction on the structure hasn't started, but there's been some improvements on the site. And then in May 2024, Lot 1 and Lot 2, which got combined for the Audi grocer, that one was issued, and now, of course, that is now completed. So there's just a quick chronology on the site. I think I got one more slide in there. And then this is what we anticipated in the development review. By 2024, we would be at 100% completion. The council did grant an extension to, I believe it's June or July 2025. And there, now that we're slowly approaching the summer, in there, it's going to be, something the council's going to start to engage probably with the developer about the status and the site grounds. And that's why we invited Mr. Yowitz here to kind of talk about where they are, what has been some of the issues with the meeting the completion schedule in here, and he will talk about the status of the project, and then what he sees as where the project as a whole is going to go in there. So that's what I just kind of wanted to introduce. Glad to answer any questions. We'll have Mr. Yowitz here. You're here to talk.
Any questions for Carlos before I start? Great. All right. Well, Mr. Members of the commission, I'm Greg Yowitz. It's doing that thing again. 6 Heather Hill Lane, also Keat Properties, Keat Olivet Gateway, maybe one of the largest landowners in the city. So yes, I love that Carlos showed the original vision of the first plan that was approved back in 2015, which was a roughly 85,000 foot in total development that was projected to cost about $35 million. So far, between the site work, the land acquisition, the Clover, and the Aldi, we've spent north of 85 million already. So while this has taken significantly longer than any of us wanted, including myself and the interest payments that we make, it is significantly larger and a much greater impact to our community. Now, why have things taken just so long? Well, number one, when I started this project back in 15, I really didn't have a concept of how significant the site work challenges were. And just to refresh, we spent well over $2 million widening and improving Olive to address the traffic concerns, not just of our project, but coincidentally, the timing happened with the Costco side. And what took time and additional delay for that was that it made no sense for me and my partner. We had an approved MoDOT plan to widen the road. The Costco required additional changes. What made no sense to any of us was that I do all my work as approved, they come in and rip half of it out and inconvenience the Olivet public. Now, getting that deal done took like an extra year because the other side didn't want to pay their fair share and there were issues with the highway department, but we got it done. And I think that's a positive reason for a delay, because what really would have been bad, I think, for Olivet was if I fully improved the road, called it done, and they came and tore it all apart. So we had issues with waiting for materials because, for example, the mast arms for the signals, we bought them, they were delivered, then they weren't usable because we needed bigger mast arms because the road got wider. Another thing happened. During the period of trying to get the project approved, many of you may not be aware, you may remember there used to be looked like a little creek that ran through the project. That was actually a federally governed navigable tributary according to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It took us 4 years to get the permit to encase the creek in a storm tube that is about 2 inches taller than me. I could actually walk through this pipe. We went through 3 government shutdowns, finally got that done. And then, and this may be news to all of you, there was this thing called the pandemic. And well, that just sort of threw us a curveball, sort of killed everything, massively affected material prices, labor availability, and so forth. And one of the things I was talking to Cole about before the meeting started was I could have advanced part of this project a lot sooner, namely where Aldi is, because there were interested parties, restaurants with drive-throughs, another small retail building. That was sort of, if you recall, we had an option A and option B plan for lots 1 and 2. But the message I heard from the council going all the way back to 2015 was, if there's anything we want, if you can in any way make this happen, get us a grocery store. Well, it took 3 rounds of negotiation with Aldi over the course of almost 3 years to get this to happen. And in the end, I think we're better off for it, right? Do I love all the interest payments we made as a result? No, but I love the fact that our city now has a grocery store. So we have the apartments, the Clover. Their last report I got last week, I think we're about 95% leased. People love it. It's great. Aldi obviously opened February, I think it was the 7th, 6th or 7th, which is great. And it looks busy every time I go there. I did go there twice in the beginning and twice had to tell them that they weren't charging the right sales tax, which is their problem, not the city's, but they've got that corrected. I bought my wife flowers on Valentine's Day and I looked at the receipt and went, told the manager, nothing happened. Went back again, it was wrong again. Figured email would solve it, which it did. So they're open, Clover's doing great. You may have seen in the last week or so, the construction trailer showed up. It's actually sitting on lot 5, but it's the construction trailer for lot 3. As Carlos mentioned, we have the first brass tap in Missouri. We're going to have the first Paris baguette in Missouri. Very exciting. I know you're all waiting for bated breath, the next tenant, Verizon, because, well, you got to mix up uses. Can't have all restaurants, won't have enough parking. come to Price Crossing at lunch on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday when the weather's nice and you see what that looks like. And I'm exchanging comments on another lease with, we had a deal with a Smoothie King, but the franchisee decided they wanted to go somewhere else, so they walked away. We have another smoothie concept. I really want a smoothie concept, maybe you can tell. So that lease hopefully will be finished up in the next couple of days. We have a 1,364 square feet to lease. We were planning on starting earlier this year, had a little bit of a weather problem, which affected not only the ground, but the survey that my engineers were supposed to deliver me the week of February 7th came in today. So that's caused us a little delay, but as you can see, the equipment's there, we're mobilizing. One other thing you may notice is we're starting to get dirt off the dirt pile on lot 6. Again, construction slowed down. There haven't been a lot of places to offload dirt. Our goal is to find somewhere convenient and close that we can give somebody the dirt versus just paying it and dumping it in a hole somewhere. So we're working on that. So lot 3, you'll start seeing a lot more activity in the next literally like couple of weeks, but it's happening. It's, we've made commitments to deliver space to our tenants this summer for their build out, and that's going to happen. Lot 6, you want me to switch mics? Okay. Let's see if this works better. Oh yeah, all right, look at that. So lot 6, which is the hotel, and I mentioned this in a city council meeting. So when we originally franchised the hotel, we franchised a dual brand Marriott. It was going to be 80 rooms of Courtyard and 80 rooms of Element by Westin. As things have changed over time, what our operating hotel partner has found is that these dual brands are not all they're cracked up to be. So we went back to Marriott and we've changed our franchise to a Courtyard only hotel, number one. Number two, 128 rooms instead of 160, which means that unless something happens that I'm unaware of, we're also not going to be building a 5-story hotel, which I think is positive news for our neighbors. It'll only be 4 stories. It'll have slightly more, like I've seen the interior designs. We're not going to have like a giant ballroom space, but as Courtyards go, it will have more meeting room space. I think it's around 1,400 square feet, which is larger than most Courtyards. Can't handle a big wedding or anything, but it gives Olivet businesses and area businesses a place to do meetings, or people are staying in the hotel or whatever. So that's 1, 2, 3, 6. So let's talk about lot 5. So as Carlos showed you in the plan, originally back when things were go and great, we thought, 2 office buildings, because we had a lot of interest from office tenants. And then that sort of waned and started getting the market started changing a little. We went down to 1. As a result of the pandemic, and again, I think we're all aware of this, the office market has irreparably changed. There's almost no office construction anywhere anymore. Now, we're still in the market. We're still talking to tenants. We're still trying to court large tenants. We had one recently, and they decided they would rather take what's called second generation space versus building something new because there's an abundance of vacant space for them to take. And it is very cost prohibitive as a result of the pandemic. Our rents would be less than brand new space in Clayton, but not that much less. Carlos mentioned about the extension of the development agreement expiring in June, and I've already been in conversations briefly with the council and with the city manager about that extension. And I know Jennifer's behind me. And so what we're going to propose with our extension is sort of an either-or plan for Lot 5. Either the office that we're approved to do, and this, of course, is subject to the council's consideration and decision, but they may ask your opinion of this, or retail/restaurant space, which will, one, facilitate the near immediate beginning of developing that lot, and which is, to the best of our ability, mathematically and analyzing this, within about 5% of our original TIF projections. And you say, oh, well, wait, you're not there, right? You're 95%. Well, if there is any issue with that, that issue becomes our risk, not the city's, because it's not the city's responsibility to fund the nodes, it's ours. According to our consultant, that actually doesn't impact us because the projections are based at need plus a reserve plus another reserve factor. So she's assured me that it will work just fine. Without being able to say exactly who I'm talking to, we're talking about the potential for likely two ballpark 7 to 9,000 foot mid-scale sit-down restaurants sharing that 4 acres and all of the parking. And we have overflow in the Clover garage. And while, I can't tell you if that plan's going to work, why I'm going to formally request this from the council is that I think it will work. And I think that in light of the way the economy is, we could certainly just keep asking for extensions forever, waiting for that magical office tenant to come around, or we could get the project done and flowing for our community. And that's sort of where I sit, which is, we all thought a big office building was a great idea, and then the world changed, and there just aren't large office deals happening anymore. And so that's kind of where we are in that, 1, 2 done, 4 done, 3 is going to start construction, be done this year. Ideally, tenants will open by subject to their schedules because they do their build out, but ideally they'll all be open by the Thanksgiving season. The hotel will hopefully get started in design soon. We had some delays. Big corporations are fun. So our agreements with Marriott with this change of the franchise, I needed some document changes. I started requesting them in October. I got them 4 weeks ago, finally, from the president of Marriott. So, it's not for lack of trying. It's basically for lack of engagement on third parties who are critical to our decision making. So, when I started this project, and I was telling this to Cole, I called my attorney cousin, former Olivet resident Bill Remus, former member of the Planning Commission, I believe, in February of 2014, and said, I got a really bad idea. I'm going to do the thing nobody's been able to figure out for almost 50 years. And you know what? It wasn't easy. It's not easy. We bought 14 different parcels from 11 different sellers. Now, the least issue was one of them was the state of Missouri, who was the approving entity for the road work and the seller. We buried 2 34,000 volt circuits underground at a cost of about $1.4 million to bury those power lines between what we paid Ameren and what we paid ourselves, what we had to pay to get the physical work done underground. We did over $2 million worth of road work, and we've got roughly $60 or $70 million apartment building built and a grocery store open, and I can't wait to see what their sales tax looks like that starts getting kicked into the city. So I'm surprised we're at the slightly north of 11-year mark from when I called my attorney. I'm a lot grayer than I was back then, slightly shorter from spinal compression. But I love where we're going, right? I love pulling into town. I mean, you may have all recently seen, we installed a node piece that went at the corner, right at the corner in front of Aldi. It's like nothing I've ever seen. None of us really knew what it should be, and we found a designer who created something unique specifically to Olivet. It's a little bit of signage and a little bit of art, and it makes a dramatic statement when you get off the highway. And when we get finished with Lot 3, the basin will be finished, the fountain will be in, the plaza will be in. That'll all be done this year, and we'll be moving along. But, these things are hard enough in general when you deal with the obstacles that are normally involved in development. Throw in a global pandemic and, we're still here. So I am happy to answer as many questions as I possibly can, but that's sort of where I'm at.
Hey, Greg. Question about lot 6. I remember from, I don't know how many years ago it was, there was a comment that we can't build the hotel until we have the office tenant. Marriott will not break ground until we have an office tenant in it. It was something about driving cars over nails or something like that. I can't remember that far back. Is there still this prerequisite by Marriott that there is an office tenant before they move into that space?
No. So the issue with, the issue with, oh, that's all right. The issue with Marriott was the construction issues. If we move forward and if the council grants the, so we'll call it Plan B, like we had for lots 1 and 2 and A or B, if we go Plan B on Lot 5 and do the restaurants, the difference between that construction and the construction of an office building is massively different, which means we can build self-contained. We don't have to worry about, cranes and erecting structure 100 feet in the air. So that is one of the other reasons we can accelerate the rest of the project if we move along that path, which I'm confident we have at least half of that lot somebody will take immediately. So if we were to build the office building and stick with that plan, I think we're still getting grief from Marriott about when we start. If I say to them, we're moving forward with Plan B, which I can't quite do yet, and we're going to do restaurants and retail instead, their objection drops. Because again, the construction conflict becomes a non-issue with the differential scale of the construction.
If
Yes. Yeah, so the question was, if the council does approve the A or B option for Lot 5 and we go with that, when is the total completion? So we're asking the council to give us until June 30th of 27, so a 2-year extension from the current expiration date, and I'll walk you through the logic of that. So if we start soon with our plans and design for the hotel and we submit those to the city, figure it takes about 5.5 to 6 months to engineer and design a hotel after we have site plan and architectural approval. And you don't want to draw your construction plans for the hotel until you have site plan architectural. So our goal is to bring in site plan and architectural in the next few months to PCDC, get that approved, start the plans. A hotel build should be, as long as the weather isn't egregiously bad, 12 to 14 months. So it is my hope that we are off the site, so to speak, by the end of the extended expiration date we're asking for, which is 2 years from the end of June. I've had enough.
No, you haven't. With regards to the possibilities of the office building, you mentioned, and I've heard this too, that nothing's getting built right now. New Class A office space is like hen's teeth, really hard to find. But I have heard that there are some companies, potential clients looking for that. Have you heard the same thing? Can you elaborate on what the market is like for new construction
Sure.
office space?
So the new market in our specific subsection, which is Class A and what are known as whale tenants, because we can't build a speculative 180,000-foot building off a few, 5,000-foot doctor's office here, 10,000 foot, right? We need a 50 to 100,000-foot tenant to kick off this building. There are just not that many of them looking because the market is soft and they're able to keep rents where they are low. US Capitol Plaza got built in Clayton. There's still a decent amount of vacancy there. Their rents would be probably close to $10 higher than ours. But I met with a Fortune 50, probably about 6 weeks ago, looking for 300,000 square feet, which would have required me coming in and asking for the building to go from 6 stories to 10, which I didn't think was the greatest idea. They, of course, decided, as I mentioned earlier, to go look at second and third generation space. There's interest in Class A space, but not from big enough tenants to get this building kicked off, is sort of the subset of this. Because you can't finance it unless you have at least well over 50%. And so we were out in the market, just to tell you where we were. We have designs out to different companies that office building ranged in size from 3 stories to 6. Because if we only got a 60,000-foot tenant, we might only build 3 floors. If we got an 80, we could build 4. And so we were looking at variability to everybody in the market. They're just not there. Or they're saying, hey, there's this second generation space I can get for 50% less. There were a number of large law firms we courted trying to get them to move out of the city of St. Louis. Exceedingly long not even negotiations. I call it a courtship. But then the inertia problem is that the rent is over double from what they can get in the city to stay versus moving to the county. And when you're talking about 100,000 square feet and a differential of north of $20 a square foot, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And the question is, how big of a deal is it to stay in the city if you're going to save millions in rent? So we didn't profess, like I'm a retail broker by trade. We hired the best in the business to be our office brokers because we wanted them to get us exposure internationally for this space. It just hasn't happened. Again, pandemic wiped out a bunch. Centene went vacant. Everybody backfilled it. Everybody that backfilled it came from somewhere else. So there's this relocation going on where there's tons of Class B space. And those Class B landlords are also spending money on amenities to make their buildings nicer, to make them A-ish, and they can do it substantially cheaper than we can build new. So if that answers your question.
Rod said it does.
Yes, the chairman confirmed it answered his question.
So when we started, it was retail. Oh, thanks. When we started, it was retail, and then thing changed, and we were like, because that was gonna be our retail engine, because we were gonna build the apartments there, retail engine there. Things changed, and we were like, that's cool because we're gonna have a bigger development, right? Because we're gonna have more square feet. Put the apartments there, get the office building. Take a little bit longer. So there's been a lot of numbers. You must look at these numbers tirelessly so many times. Your eyes are probably crossed. So help me just in plain terms. Is the city better off, worse off, or about in the same shape when this all gets done from what we thought we were going to have way back in 2013?
Great question. Compared to our original 85,000 foot originally approved concept, significantly better off for a number of reasons. One, the property tax on the hotel combined with the apartments combined with the other buildings, which if we do, originally Plan A was 85,000. Aldi's 22.5, Lot 3 is just under 11, so that's 33.5. Let's say we build on Lot 5, 13,000 square feet, so that's about 40,000 feet. So that's half of the original project. The apartment building without the garage is 225,000 square feet, and the hotel's probably going to, I haven't seen the 4-floor design, but let's call it somewhere at least 90. So we have a multiple of the original square footage. And just to give you sort of a dollar reality of what that means. So the first year after we bought the property taxes for all of the lots were somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I think with the houses and everything, let's call it, I think it was sub 50,000 for all of the property tax. Our 2024 tax bill for the Clover, which is a not fully assessed tax bill because it was not fully complete in the eyes of the county, was $465,000. Add that to, I don't know what Aldi's going to do. I can tell you that our economic modeler, who oversees 120 taxing jurisdictions in the state of Missouri, believes this store will do $20 million a year in sales. Granted, the TIF has to be paid off, and there's the split of the taxes and so forth. But at $20 million after TIF at 3.8%, which I think is the total gross take to the city of Olivet, plus you figure the building at 22,500 square feet is probably going to have a tax bill in the neighborhood of, well, Price Crossing's over $5 a foot, so the Aldi's going to be at least $5 a foot. There's another 100,000. So we're looking at a property in total flows of taxes of 7 figures, ideally, and I think it's real, in under 24 months. I mean, there may be some lag on the finish of the last buildings and the full tax year of those, but as it compares to the original plan, a multiple better and more diverse in that it's now live, work in retail, play, and stay, because we didn't have a hotel in the beginning. And one of the things this community, and I get calls from people all the time, hey, my kid's bar mitzvah's coming up. When's the hotel going to be ready? And I'm like, I wish it would, I would really love my Marriott owner's card. It comes with amazing benefits. They won't give it to me until we break ground. So I'm like, these are the amenities that at least my friends say to me: grocery, hotel, more restaurants. So that's sort of where the market's leading us. I mean, the office would be an economic benefit from a property tax standpoint, not necessarily a direct community benefit. It's dollars, and there's certainly a benefit to that. But imagine if there were 2 nice, large sit-down restaurants there. What don't we have in Olivet either? Large sit-down. I mean, Fallon's is lovely, but that's 4,000 feet. There's a much different vibe in a 7,000-foot restaurant and a much higher volume.
With the change in the plan, originally you had I don't remember what the number of the lots are, but you had the hotel and then the office building right next to it. And between the two was a parking garage. So that's gone. We don't need the parking garage anymore.
Correct. If we do this, again, if the council approves this alternate concept for Lot 5, we no longer would need a parking garage. So again, another, I'll call it intangible benefit for the neighbors, is that there's not a 100-foot tall building in their backyard. There is certainly the hotel, which at 4 stories won't be the full height that's approved. Carlos, what was approved? 60 for the hotel?
The hotel, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so take off 12 feet. So it should be about 48 feet instead of 60. So it's, it's still not short, but it's also not 100 feet tall. The current approval for 6 stories was somewhere in the 92-foot range. Restaurants are going to be 25 feet with parapets, maybe 28. So, there's pluses and minuses to that. The tall building is actually a sound barrier to the highway. At the same time, if I live there, maybe I don't want to see 100, but that's what we thought was a great idea and got approved. And again, because things happen in weird ways. What I don't want to do is ask the council to replace Plan A with Plan B, because the way the world works is the day after that gets approved, some amazing office tenant will call me and say, now that you can't do it, we want it. So that's why I'm going to ask the council for the either or. Likely Plan B is where I think we're going to end up. I've seen things before where you immediately decide not to do something and then somebody wants it. So that's just so you understand my logic of why I'm asking for optionality like I did for 1 and 2. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. I mean, I've always believed, or I thought what was going to happen on the office side is with the National Geospatial Agency, there are a lot of companies moving to this town. I thought one of them might want to be more central, near the airport, hotel behind them. This site has all the makings of a perfect corporate campus. Food, place to live, place to stay, office, and right to the east, more restaurants, Costco, Target, Dearborn, all right. We just haven't found anybody willing to bite.
So, if the city council doesn't grant you the extension, does it just like we get the land back and we get to RFP it again? Like, what happens? Like, we keep talking about the extension, option A, option B, but what if they say no? What happens then?
It's a great question. I'm not 100% sure, but what I'll tell you is what I think happens is that we don't achieve substantial completion. We own the land, so the city doesn't, right? The city has issued us roughly 20.8 million of the TIF notes of the 23.8 2 maximum. The city would refuse to issue me the last 2 point or whatever it is, 2.8, 3.1 million in notes. Yeah, and we would sit and wait until something came along that made the city happy that we could get approved. I don't feel like that's the best option, right? But yeah, it's because we've already built a number of buildings, because we've already issued a bunch of notes, the train's moving, right? And again, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to profess to be an expert in these documents, but like when I look at the facts on the ground, the notes are issued, the buildings are built. The real question we're down to in all of this is 1 4-acre lot, which is why we're coming up with an alternative, because I don't want to just keep waiting. I don't think it's certainly not in the developer's best interest. I don't think it's in the city's best interest either. So the timing of Carlos's requests, in case the council asks you, hey, what do you guys think about this, right?
So the lots in question again, where the parking garage, the office building were, you mentioned that Fallon's is 4,000 square feet, but you're looking at restaurants larger, 7,000. It sounds like you have a fairly detailed idea of what you want. Are you actively talking to people right now? I know you usually don't tell us exactly who they are, but it'd be nice to know, are they local? Are they chains? Are they unique concepts? You're talking sit-down type of restaurants versus, no drive-throughs, that sort of thing. Can you elaborate on what you're looking at and who you've talked to and what kind of feedback you're getting?
So it would be likely 2 7 to one of the concepts is 13,000 feet. So it could be a 7 and a 13, could be 2 7s. These will in all likelihood be regional or national chains. Locals would never be able to afford it or have the credit that our banks would be comfortable with it. And there's a certain, at least from our perspective, stability in a brand that we know they're actually going to do the sales to support the TIF and be productive long term. As to who, mid-priced, family-friendly, diverse menus. One has a specific type of food that they sell. The other one is, the second one I'm not so sure about. It is more around a concept of food and stuff. I can obviously not tell you who I'm talking to. To answer your question, am I talking to them? 100%. And all I've said is, I have an idea. I got to go to the council. If it works, I'll let you know. And they've said, if it works, we want it. At least one of them has, 100%.
So it would be built to spec, built to their specifications.
Yes, it would be a custom building for them, yes. And just to understand, on the 4 acres, for these size restaurants, you need about 2 acres per user. Like that's the size pad they normally take in a development. So we happen to have 4 acres inside the roads. So my vision is 1 in the north, 1 in the south, 1 just north of the hotel, and a shared parking field in the middle. And maybe some again, I'd have an engineer design it and architects and all that, but we've taken some stabs at what could this thing look like? And when they expressed if you could get this approved, we'd be interested. That's when I engaged my consultant and said, does this make any sense for the city to do and for the TIF? Does this work? The answer is yes. And so again, because the risk of any shortfall falls on us, but we're confident in it. So that's why we're moving forward with it. I think I answered all your questions.
How big is that California Pizza Kitchen that closed? And that's stir crazy? Are those 7,000 square feet or is that smaller?
60, I think those are 6.
Okay. So it's around that size.
It'd be a little larger than one of those.
Okay, I can't spatially see things like that. You could have said it was the Bellagio. I'm like, yeah, it's 7,000 square feet. Okay.
Well, to give you a frame of reference, the first floor of Price Crossing is 27,000 square feet. It's over 300 feet long. So, yeah, I'm trying to think what building in Olivet is around 7,000 feet. Walgreens or CVS are usually like 13.
Enchanted Bride.
Enchanted Bride might be about that size.
I know that store well.
My condolences. It's expensive. So yeah, except obviously the difference being you need a lot more parking for a restaurant than you do for retail. So yeah, Franken's Hills is maybe 3,000 square feet. And we, you know, I'll say it now that they've closed. I spent 2 years trying to help them understand why they should take the spot where Brass Tap is. Met with them. They're lovely people. Met with them over and over and over again. I introduced them to another one of the very successful families in the restaurant business in this town and said, you two should work together. They'll fund you. They want to be your partners. They grew up on your pizza. I tried. And because that was my vision, right? Like if you asked me in 2014 when I started, and asked me today, what are the things what I really wanted? And I think Brass Tap's going to be great, right? But I wanted a pizza place in Olivet. And, you know, I love Fallon's, and they make a pizza. It's not really a pizza. It's not pizza. It's Irish pizza, right? I tried and tried. I mean, I all but begged Gerard Kraft. I kind of begged Gerard Kraft. I begged a couple of the other Italian families to open pizza places. We got close a number of times. But, you know, some of it happened as the pandemic was ending and they were nervous and the restaurant business is going to be around anymore and blah, blah, blah. And then Brass Tap came along and it's a viable concept. I think they'll do great. It's a, you know, I look at it as Fallon's is sort of that family-friendly pub and Brass Tap is sort of that younger, hipster, loud sports bar. That's going to be, because Brass Tap is like Buffalo Wild Wings. And, you know, both Brass Tap and Paris Baguette are locally owned franchises. So it is a chain, but the owners are local, and that's important to us. I don't want some, again, with these bigger restaurants, there's no choice in it, but in the building, I wanted somebody who lives there, lives in St. Louis, not necessarily in Olivet, but they got skin in the game. They're going to be present, right? They're going to be part of the community. They're going to do like Fallon's does. They're going to participate in events and things at the park and all of that. Like that's what I wanted. And so I'm happy about that. One of the family that's the franchisee of Paris Baguette, they started calling me in 2016 and said, we're going to find a way to open a restaurant in your development. The wife's on one of the committees at the school board, will do schools, like they're very hyper local people. And the husband's family was in the restaurant business and they've been dying for us to get going as of high. And now it's finally happening.
What's the size of Chevy's?
That's a big building. I think that building's close to 10. I think it might be larger than 10 because it seats well over 300 people. And that lot is bigger than 2 acres. Yeah, I think that building could be 13, 14,000 feet all day.
And that's what you're looking at.
Configured, obviously not like a barn.
Right.
Right. The Quonset Hut it was a bus repair building. It was a bus company. Oh, was it? It was glass, and then it was buses. And for one concept we're talking to is about 13,000 square feet. The other one that's more serious
And it's
is,
just food?
well, I mean, food and drink, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the size of Brass Tap?
3,000.
Oh.
Brass Tap is 3,000. Paris Baguette's 3,189. Verizon's 1,500. The smoothie concept is 1,350, I think. And we have 1,364 left. So whatever those add up to is that building.
Now, Carlos, based on the TIF that's already going, are we gonna have to look at like any reconfiguration of numbers? I know we have looked at different iterations of the project in the past, but is this something that's gonna come before us, or is this basically just informational?
I think it's, right now, I think I don't know the answer. I think it's something that we would, given the TIF, in there that we would be looking, or it'd be behooving of the city to look at what the revenue generated would be on those type of uses. Because right now, what is it? It's called the cost analysis is based on an office use, and then these other specific users that were in there. If you take that out, though, I think we would want to know, does it still meet those projections in there? The other thing is, in terms, that would probably require some adjustment to see if it's compliant. And then, of course, it's in a tighter time frame. We can't change the years of the TIF. It's 21 years, I believe. We're 7 years in. So you're with
23. It's 23 minus 7. Yep.
So you're within this 14-year window, and then does it meet, the rest of that adjustment? So I would assume something would probably come back, and there is some type of analysis in that process. Does that answer what you're?
Yeah, and who do we use? Demand Strategies, or did we use the
I
latest
think
consultant to help?
the last analysis was done by PGAV, which is the one that showed up. And again, I think the developer, you had your the development dynamics, or?
Yeah, development dynamics.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've had our team model it. If the council will consider it, we obviously want to keep it confidential because we can't name who the tenants are. So it's, again, it's the council's decision. Again, given the fact the notes are issued and the risk sits with us, you certainly, if council wants to review the math, we'll provide the math. At the end of the day, the math is the math. And if there's a shortfall, it comes out of our pockets, not the city's, so.
But that's kind of true, but not necessarily, because we're like co-signers. While we're not on the line for that, it does impact our credit. We have a credit that's based on the assessed value of the community as a whole, and that credit, while it's not our funds for use, they're within our within our maximum, within our credit limit in there. So your success is important to our success, of course, but it's not. Yeah, we're not like on the line if the 21 years was not met or 23 years was not met, but we kind of are in there. We're still,
Well, you're the beneficiary of the resultant product at the end if it's
Correct.
not the same. But, to Nathan's point, if the answer is no, well, we're going to get there anyway. We're going to get to a failure of the math. Eventually the graph will, so if you will cross time and dollars, where even if we built what's approved, we still won't make it, right? If the longer we wait, the closer we get to that date. So, again, if the council says, hey, we want to see your runs to see what the math looks like, trust me, I checked them or I wouldn't be asking for it.
When are you presenting this to council? The new council or the current council, I guess is my question. 'Cause
It
we have
may
an
be-
election-
What time is it?
It may be a little of both, right? So it may come in during the current council. Our attorney is talking to the city's legal counsel, and if we come around on an agreement of the presentation, our documents, so our redevelopment agreement has a substantial completion date of June 30th, 2025. Our lenders who are loaning us the money to build Lot 3 and will loan us additional money for the rest of it are very interested in seeing that date get extended as soon as possible. They actually wanted it done already, and I said, but that's actually not real. Like, we can't just poof, right? So it is my hope that it will actually get done before the end of the month of April. Again, if the council agrees, and I don't know, it's their choice. We'll ask for it. Hopefully it'll get done.
Thanks for your time, Greg.
Happy to.
Any other questions, Becky? Okay, great. Very informative.
Oh, and last thing on an unrelated note, but sort of related to dollars. So as you all are probably aware, the credit union moved out of Price Crossing and Wine Merchant moved in. There's one of those things that we never dreamed we could generate this much more sales tax out of a building. Because, I just thought it was going to be a credit union for 30 years because they had to lease that long. And then they made what I consider one of the worst real estate decisions of all time. Instead of asking me if I would make the space smaller because it was too big, they went and moved out and built on Lindbergh. Couldn't have been a better gig for me or Olivet in the form of, I like bourbon. And having them downstairs is fabulous. And they are, they have tastings now, and I bought the world's greatest cheese. Rogue River Valley Blue Cheese won World Cheese Championships 2 years in a row. It's also $60 a pound for cheese, which is a little crazy, but it's spectacular when they get it. Anywho, I just thought I'd mention, back in 2000 and, Missy, 5 when I was here doing Price Crossing. Predecessor members of this commission were convinced Price Crossing, and they told me out loud, Price Crossing was going to fail. It was never going to generate what it was going to generate. In 2005, my first property tax bill was $27,000 on that building. Last year's property tax bill, $247,300. 10 times the property tax. Plus, now, even more sales tax than I ever thought. I think the building may generate taxable sales of $15 million this year, which I thought 10 was going to be a stretch. I think we modeled 6, and I think we're going to hit 15. So, there was concern back then. There was concern about Olive Crossing. It's going to be, in the end, it's going to be services, benefits, dollars, and then I'll figure out what else I'm going to do to help the city.
Let's just hope that the retaliatory tariffs don't really cut into their business.
Oh,
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Yawitz, whatever the retail that you're looking at for possible option 2 to the council, if your legal team could hurry up, I'd love to hear it. I'd like to know, is it something that is not within a 10-mile parameter of our area? I mean, okay, if it's
currently?
somewhere else, but is it at least not like up in Creve Coeur, U City, something of that nature?
nowhere near it. No, let's just say, let's say the first 2 of these things that I'm talking to, if they were both to take, the closest one for number 1 ought to be 15 miles. Number 2, I'm actually driving in my head. At least 15 miles, completely different communities. And given the size of these things, they won't be near each other, right? These types of things do not, it's not like a McDonald's or a Taco Bell or something like that where they knock one out every 2 miles. They don't want these things that close because the sales of these buildings, the smaller one should be not less than 8 million a year in taxable sales. Not less than. So that's the magnitude of, where a brass tap might do 3 million, something like this will do 8 to 12. That's why this can work within the context of the TIF.
And so in fairness, when you come back in 20 years and talk to the next EDC, I won't speak for everyone else, but it's not concern. It's probably still a mix of excitement and impatience, I think is what you're hearing, in fairness. So,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yes. That was meant to tell a story about the past. And back then, right, as Becky remembers, Olivet was kind of sleepy. Nobody wanted to be here, right? People told me I was crazy for building Price Crossing. It was the guys at THF, you're out of your mind. I'm like, I live here. I want what I want for my community. I'm not going anywhere. I've now been here since January 94, so 31 years. So I'm all in, and I know what my role in this community, my goal is to create taxes and dollars for the city to spend money on services for the residents. That's what I consider my job to be. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
I think I figured it out. 15 miles, I think he's opening a Buc-ee's.
Oh, 2004. Yeah, my memory fades after this many years. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the audience. I appreciate the questions. If you think of more, ask Carlos or Jennifer and they'll get with me and I'll get you an answer.
Thank you so much for coming in, Greg.
Oh, sure. And as we sign more leases, we'll make more announcements.
And with that, moving right along with the agenda. Discussion item number 4, business awards.
Yes, sir. And I'm
I'll
sorry
turn
for
it
the
over to Ms.
interruption.
Doty.
I'm sorry for all the audio interruptions, but I did confirm that we are definitely being on screen. Our everything is recording, the audio and the visual, so we don't have to worry about there. I am going to share my screen because most of this will be on your screen. So we had an amazing nomination turnout. 211. Oh, Carlos, I can see this and there we go. Oh, see, when my screen changed, I just thought everybody's was. So, okay. So we had 211 total nominees. These are the business of the year nominees. There were a number that were disqualified, but to focus on those that made it through the vetting process. If you remember our original, the rules of the game are to, be a current business, to be located in Olivet. They cannot be honored in the previous years, the immediately previous years. And they have to be in good standing, so clear of code violations and a current business license. All of those were broken. For some nominee. There were quite a number that had to be ruled out for every single one of those reasons. So if any rules that we add will be felt in the in the nominations. Moving to business of the year, the UPS store came out on top. Over 51% of of the businesses that were nominated, 39 that is, came in for the UPS store. I cannot think that it may have been a coincidence, but whenever I dropped off the flyer to put in their front door, the owner's mom was there. And so they came out really strong in nominations. And that was very sweet. So I did prepare a little bit of, as you know, we quantify the attributes. There's a list of attributes and they could select up to 5 per business. So as you can see, everybody's represented. Veteran owned was the top one that came out. That was why they voted for who they voted for, and you can see that it's actually represented across almost all the leaders, which I thought was kind of interesting. That, and it's orange, so it stands out. But these are reflective of the tenets of our comprehensive plan. These were the things that we thought made a good or a business, worthwhile, and it is showing through. You can look at these surveys and the business nomination process as a finger on the pulse of what is still our matters as far as opinions of the people, like what is the most important thing to you. Uh, Good parking, it was actually not very high on this list. But sustainable business practice, prompt customer service or prompt service, supports training and workforce, amazingly high, that came through. And I think that those are really positive things. As far as the only thing that you have in your packet tonight are all of the results by business. So it's alphabetical by business, and I can give you a copy if you're interested. But so you can see what feedback was given for all the businesses, and I did not take out the businesses that were disqualified. So, yes. Oh, would you step to the mic, please?
My name's Cole Donaldson. I'm just an observer. But I did have an observation on the last slide. I just wouldn't want the commission to take the wrong lesson. You've looked at this a lot more than I have, but it seemed to me like the orange in almost all the bars was actually the sum of exemplary customer service. And on the right side, the key wasn't in like order of like popularity, but it was just in the order of stacking.
It was supposed to be, and
Yeah.
whenever I sorted it, it was supposed to be in the order that it was greatest. However, what I am seeing here is that it prioritized the greatest vote getter. And you're right, it is the summer of exemplary customer service.
Yeah, didn't want to distract people, but just also didn't want people to take away the wrong lesson for whatever you use this for.
Yeah, nope, I was portraying it incorrectly, so I appreciate that.
You bet.
These were just some outstanding comments. Obviously, that was the Carmel House. Some of them were very long, other ones not so much. When we get to the restaurants, you could definitely see the more quick of the feedback. But I did think that some of these are worth calling out. And the bridge did not receive very many votes, but you can tell that the person who nominated them was very passionate about their nomination. So while not all the businesses have the numbers or their moms there whenever the flyer is being dropped off, there really are a lot of great businesses. To the restaurants of the year, Balance came out very, very strong. It was really for the ones that fell off the list, the second and third highest of the restaurants were disqualified. Yes. So it was really interesting. That's where that 211 number starts to not add up with the print. So, but there was a lot of love shown around, and as far as we can go ahead and see here, and thank Colt for his an assessment, because we can see here that exemplary customer service was the highest, or was the most prized of what came out here as far as the restaurant nominees went. And yeah, I thought that these were great, but probably my favorite, a lot of compliments on the staff, the speed of service, but classic Olivet. I think that was my favorite comment. And authentic food for Taikei Shabu Shabu. the original and best smokehouse. So I so apologize that I put in 2 for Sugar Fire. As far as what the commission weighs in for the best business and the best restaurant, is there anything from, you ultimately do get to decide who the winners are. You can let it go along with the nominations, which last year we had 2 ties, or we had a tie. So it was the commission was a tiebreaker. This year we have clear winners. So we can stick with the public and have those both as your winners. But if we could have the commissioner, chairman, acknowledge the winners of the Business of the Year award and the Restaurant of the Year award, then we can move on to the Commissioner's Choice Award. Or sorry, yeah, Chairman's. Oh yes, Commissioner's Choice.
The 2 top vote getters in the 2 categories, they are eligible?
Yes, yes, no, everything that you see, all the businesses that I've put out on the screen are ones that were eligible. They've been vetted, so they made it through.
So the ones that, you said the second and third vote getter were not eligible, but they weren't on that list.
Cause they won last year.
They are not on the list that's on the screen. Yeah, so the businesses that you're asked to, I guess, award and or choose from are shown here. So,
Can I suggest we approve the UPS store in Fallon's to win this year?
Second.
so sorry.
By the way, we should,
Just don't lean in too closely.
the bridge is this super amazing place that no one knows about that's based in Olivet. So we should figure out how to do something cool. with that.
If we could just, we'll discuss that.
I
with-
completely concur. They are awesome. Being in the business that I am, we're dropping stuff off there all the time.
That's cool. So, I need to take a vote for both of them? Okay, so, the motion okay, I apologize. Chairman Pattershak,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Zelinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Yes.
and Commissioner Munz.
Yep.
Thank you. That is, unanimous. And then back to the Commissioner's Choice Award of what
What the criteria here is basically our discussion. We have to choose whoever we want.
it is, we did look at or try-
Based on the nominations that we that were submitted?
You
Or
do not have to base it on your
Right.
nominations whatsoever.
no
It can be
criteria.
completely new.
Yeah.
In fact, I do think, the bridge, it didn't come up from staff, and they didn't come up from the business sponsors, but what you have on the screen here, the artery, I know does a lot with, to do the framing for Five Oaks on Warson. Plant Haven, I think not just as a gifts and plant store, this was my staff recommendation. Sorry. They've really brought a quality development to this area. They went from being a temporary stand that came up in the summer, I hoped every year, to being this fantastic thing.
Well, but that being said, thank you.
Yeah.
I would say, I would make the nomination for, well, I'll preface this by saying, this is a little bit of a different business with the bridge. And I think that, I don't think they're struggling or anything like that, but it's really a community-based, endeavor that not only do they help people get rid of their stuff, et cetera, they make the experience for people who are less off than ourselves, than anybody else. They do an awesome job. And I don't want to really get into what they do, et cetera, but to give them some sort of a recognition beyond what is usually given through like a plebiscite or like a tally of votes or something like that, I think would be really worthwhile to give them a little bit of publicity.
Do you mean St. Louis Help? Or you mean
No,
the
please.
bridge
No, the
as
bridge.
in, sorry,
The bridge.
the bridge?
The card game.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because
Can we confirm they're eligible?
Yeah, they were on the list.
they actually, no, that's a really good question. I did, I did vet the ones that I put on the screen, but it is entirely possible that they would not have made it through. Because there had been previous years when they did not have a business license or, and things. So, it's good to ask if they're vetted.
Prepare for next year.
Well, they were on a screen previous. On the screen previous to this, we're all vetted. Go back up to business of the year. Only the
Somebody
top
voted
vote
for it.
getters.
No, no, they were on a previous screen and the previous screen was vetted. So but it's still a good idea to ask if they are in good standing before we nominate. And I can generally do that or somewhat by memory.
Well, why don't we go ahead and do we have to table this till next meeting, or do we do this by
No.
email or something, or? Right,
You said you vet
yeah.
all.
They are vetted. They are good.
I would like to make a proposal that we,
I second that.
Commissioner Moon's, sorry. Can you speak into the microphone?
yes.
Okay. I'll call a vote. Chairman Patterson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Zelinski,
Sure.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Yes.
and Secretary Moons.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous. We have the bridge as our first Commissioner's Choice Award. Thank you all.
I fought for the sports cards again and I fell short somehow. I gotta talk to my buddy Devin. Maybe he's not paying his bills here. But yeah.
Paperwork, it's probably
darn it.
paperwork.
Maybe next year I'll pay, no. That's outstanding. I think as a commission, these three businesses are unique and different and well deserving, and I'm excited to honor all of them. So awesome stuff.
I'm sorry, I didn't know how to preface the next steps, but this is what this is what the award looks like. And we are going to go with the same design again. I am going to do the very happy job tomorrow of informing the winners and making sure that they can make it to our coffee with the mayor on May 14th. And then right away on May 15th, we have the luncheon with the Creve Coeur Olivet Chamber where they'll be honored.
All right, fantastic. Moving right along. Other business, we have some meeting minutes.
We do not have meeting minutes.
That's good. Okay, next, reports, city staff reports.
Carlos, did you have anything to report? Did anybody have any questions on developments or anything going on?
I honestly would like to understand what council is gonna do. Like I think Nate asked the question, but it was not incredibly clear. Like what are the paths that are taken if there isn't an extension until June of 2027? And that was not made clear when Greg was here. Maybe we don't have to talk about it now. Maybe it could be done over email, but I think it's very interesting to try to figure out how is the city gonna navigate these waters, considering that this person we empowered to develop this property is going to likely fall 2 years behind plan.
Luckily, we have the mayor sitting right there. We can
Yeah,
ask her.
I just don't know if this is an open meeting discussion or this happens in closed session or how it gets done or when it will get done. But I'm very curious to know the city's plan on this.
I don't know the city's plans because it has to take the majority of council to make a decision. Okay? What I will say is this. You know, if you drop the ball and you say, and you don't continue as a partner in this process, you know, and you stop it, you know, is that worse than dealing with a little bit more strength and power on the city side to say, if you want this, then but for, you have specific deadlines that now have to be met. No more third parties, no more pandemics. You've got your financing, you've got 90% of the TIF money. To me, to me personally, I would rather see negotiations and things continue. Um, um, these projects and what I've learned over my 25 years and looking at other cities and other TIF efforts and other TIF projects. And I will even include Castlegate as I worked on that one as a trustee. Where you start is not always where you finish. And I will say that yes, in the very beginning, that first design was a flat one level design. And we went back to the developer and said, we need depth, we want depth. And so it's been this yin and yang and pull to where I'm going to say, I would rather see, something continue. I will not, unless he brings it on before April 22nd, I will not be an individual making that decision. You will more than likely have 3 fairly new council members on that will be beginning to learn some history. So, at the end of the day, I hope we could all continue to be decent partners and just have a little bit of the hammer down and say, here's your deadlines. Here's what needs to be done. But I will not be a part of that body.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
I'll chime in. I think it puts us in a unique position. And it's not like it doesn't happen. I think these things do happen in developments of this size. The fundamental thing from a planning component was, did we get our vision, completed? Did we get it done? And I think, again, we had a choice of what they did on the east side to what we did on the west side. And I think there is a distinction between once you go to the one side to the other side. And I biasly, I think we got a better product. And we knew it was going to be complicated. We knew it was going to be tough. I'd like to see the whole thing come into fruition. But I understand, we started, we work in plans that go 20 years and things change. We have a new comprehensive plan, a plan that is about building community as opposed to building vision in there. And I think it would behoove, when the council gets into the discussions is, what can we do within this spot to build our community and make it better? It's not necessarily that the buildings have to be taller now, but what are these 2 new, restaurateurs and the hotel, how are they going to strengthen, or bring attributes to our community that we don't have just beyond just going to go eat, in there. And I think it's going back to that table of, we expect a little more. We expect a little more because some of it's coming out of our pocket. It's not our direct tax, but it's that investment.
Well, maybe, so, yes, the development will get done, one way or another. But at what point is the city going to get reimbursed or paid for giving people unlimited time or extra time to do that? If our negotiation point is, yes, we'll give you an extension, but this time you're going to meet it, that's not negotiation. Like, what are we, and maybe that's a question for us to understand what we can actually what is available to negotiate from a financial recompensation for lost funds during this time. I don't know how that works,
Yep.
but that would be more
Something I can bring
interesting.
towards Jennifer and we can
Yeah.
discuss.
You know, just to add to that, I think Nate's right on, because there's two other situations. One is, we talked about the storage facility and the presentation they made, you know, saying, oh, the price of lumber's going way up, but when we saw the building going up, it was all metal studs. And secondly, there was, Sansone came, in front of council, last month. And, you know, with regards to the outbuilding in front of, the Oliver, we basically, you know, gave some things to that developer to get that project underway. And part of it, that we wanted back in return was some sort of a, public space, commercial, product, can be used by the community, restaurant, whatever, but it's still sitting in fallow. It's just not there. So what do we have in terms of clawback? And what do we do?
It's a very good point and something we'll bring up.
Since I brought up Sandstone thing, is there anything on that?
Nothing more recent since the council development in there. I know that they were doing some outreach beyond just having Pace do that themselves in there. And I know they've had some discussions because it's been brought up with discussions with other people looking at the sites. So like Mr. Sansone approached Mr. Sella, and they were talking about possibility of, you know, working together on something.
I guess my last thing to say is that the business license renewals are due on May 15th. I do have samples of the letters that we sent out and our forms if anybody's interested in seeing that. But we sent out last Friday about 394 envelopes.
Got mine.
Did ya? Well, the mail works. And that was a wonderful thing. So it's busy. And not to overshadow the busyness, but Madam Mayor, if you want to do your thing, I took the liberty of doing the upcoming events.
Oh, I appreciate that. All right, so yes, next week we're gonna have coffee with the mayor and it's gonna be the Olivet City Council. We're gonna kind of talk about things, whether it be historical or what they're proud of, or, you know, what we feel we've accomplished. What I feel has been accomplished in 25 years. Maybe they'll be with less time. We have an election coming up that will change the face and the look of your council. Native plant sale is going to be April 26th, and it's also going to be the National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. But you all know that we have the capabilities for you to come on in anytime during the business day and drop those drugs off into a drop slot box. It's backed by the police department. After April 22nd, there will be a little gathering after that brief meeting to say hello to the new and goodbye to the old. And I will let you, do you want me to read this whole thing here?
No.
Okay, all right. I will tell you that I've eaten at Great Heart. It was very yummy. I'm proud that we have another place in our community to gather. And that's pretty much my report.
One last thing, Chairman, though, that May 26th meeting, if that's the Monday, that's Memorial Day. And
Then I will be emailing you for a different date for the May meeting.
With that, any other reports, any other comments? No, I think we're done here with that. Close the meeting, we're adjourned.